Hi folks, and welcome to Worth the Calories. I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
We are here with Bread Week.
Yay!
I was about to say Desserts Week, that's next week. I'm already on next week. We are here with Bread Week. Sorry this is coming out late. I have been very ill the last few days, and in doing so, I got spoiled on Who Left the Tent. So I was kind of paying attention for what happened to Anthony to see, and it was just funny to me that his opening thing was like, come on, I'm going to smash this. Oh, dude.
Oh, I'm sad.
He was very emotional at the end and had been a very nice chap the few weeks we'd had with him.
He just looked like such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you don't win Bake Off just because you're a nice guy.
No. Yeah.
But he looked like a really nice guy.
Yeah. He wasn't all personality like Selassie, who's almost the sort of closest comparison from recent years. Just a nice dude.
I agree.
Anyway, Bread Week. So this is one that's always a bit interesting because not everyone bakes bread. Bread is a difficult thing to do. It involves a lot of different stuff compared to normal baking.
Yeah, arguably it's an entirely different thing, really.
Yeah, you could have a show about baking different breads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and just, okay, there's some of the same concepts. You know,
Yeah.
you bake it and you use flour in it.
Yeah.
But other than that, most of the techniques are entirely different.
It is the bake-off, though.
This
It
is
is
true.
about baking.
This is true.
It is what would you go into a bakery and buy?
Bread.
Bread.
And to be honest, for me, I am probably more interested in learning to make lots more bread than I am in cakes. Mainly because I've got the world's best cake chef at home.
And you can put cheese on bread, Kath.
And I can put cheese on bread.
Cheese and a bit of salt.
Busted.
Salty fish eggs.
Oh yes. I am a savoury creature.
Absolutely. So we kicked off with 12 Chelsea buns that had to be attached.
They looked good.
They did look good. It's a really good challenge. I like not just having to make the thing, but I like these challenges they've done in the past where there's a feature to the way it's served.
Yes.
Where they have to serve something while it's hot, where you have to leave something for an hour to see if it'll stay standing, stuff like that. I like this. It's an interesting twist.
Yeah, baking it so that it's attached and it's almost like it is a one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it looked good.
And it is great. When you buy those, the packs of buns, whether it's an ice bun or a bap or something, and you do tear them off and you've got the nice sort of fresh dough in the
Fluffy.
middle. Great. So, who do we think did well? Does anything stand out on this challenge? Was anything particularly interesting?
There were some interesting flavours used. I'm not sure I fancied Ruby's ghee and carrots. but you know.
A bun with icing and chocolate.
And I'm not sure I fancied John's marshmallow on top, but it might be just that marshmallow has become my enemy after we tried to make wagon wheel.
I get what he's doing about introducing some sort of nice sweet flavour. And something that will stay, but isn't necessarily a frosting icing. So I can appreciate it in those terms. But I think marshmallow is too soft to go on dough. Because you don't have it on cakes and things. You have it with a biscuit. You have it with something a bit firmer. Yeah.
What was interesting to me was that they didn't comment on it at all when they were tasting it.
No.
Which tells me that it was something and nothing. Probably didn't really taste much different to a normal icing.
Yeah, what were the comments on his overbaked? So, and I think by that point, because I think they went last to him, it was just all down to the dough. That's what they were telling on people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there were a few overbaked, weren't there?
Oh, a lot overbaked.
Yeah.
Only a couple baked well. And frankly, this is across all the challenges. This was not a successful week in the tent. I wonder if we just don't have many bread bakers in there.
No.
So.
And you know, what's her face? Kim Joy, who was like, oh, I am a bread baker.
I'm
a bread baker. It's going to be amazing. She didn't do that well, did she?
No,
I mean,
she did okay.
Yeah, her showstopper was good, but you
Last
know,
in technical.
She lasted the technical, and for all she was like, hey, I've got a Tang Sung.
I've got it.
Yeah,
Zhao, maybe.
I think I've written Tang Jang, but I don't know what
They
it
did
was.
go to her first.
Yes.
And we were also eating dinner at that point. So
this is true.
I have learned to eat dinner with one hand whilst making notes.
I was just entirely focused on my corned beef hash.
We had what I think might be the first for this season of well, we have what I think might be the first for this series of the Bake Off. We had someone forgetting to add something to their bake.
Yes.
With Terry absolutely forgetting to add some sort of sugary pecan thing, maybe?
Sugar and spices and stuff. He escapes, though.
He did. He unravelled it, put it in, which I would have just scattered it on the top.
Yeah.
So, brave lad. But they gave him good comments. Generally, overall, they didn't seem to mention the way it was edited and presented. They didn't seem to mention and pick up on that.
Which makes me think, for all the way that everyone was going, oh, you can't poke the dough once it's had its second proof. It seemed to be all right.
Needs must and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. He was quite pleased that Paul had said, oh, these are like the ones. No, Paul might just being a bit self-deprecating, frankly.
Do you know, I'm not sure I can imagine Paul actually doing much home baking.
Yeah, not home baking. Yeah.
No, obviously I see him doing it professionally.
Yeah,
but...
I can see him doing, like, this is the month where I'm putting together my new book. Something like that, but yeah. Overall, I thought the challenge was fine. Everyone did all right, but no one hugely stood out. There was Dan who got a handshake.
Dan's looked very, very competent.
Yes.
They didn't make me go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously I didn't get to eat them. Come on, Dan.
I have seen a few comments about Paul giving out handshakes more freely than perhaps he should. And that is one I might agree with. I think the two last week, Ruby's maybe not. Rahul's, I think, yes, it was clearly very exceptional. But this one he has got it absolutely bang on.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he should have made. But he hasn't then elevated it. He hasn't done something to go, oh, and this has come off beautifully. You've done it so well. He's just done an exceptional bake. And I wonder if that's a case of everyone else didn't really hit it and his was so good. It feels like it's differentiated.
Do we need to add, you know how they added A stars on top of A's?
Yeah.
Do we need something to elevate the handshake to give us a proper topping class mark? Maybe he needs to do a double handshake.
Well, they have done that, the Imperial class with both hands. He has done that. I'm sure I saw a thing because again there was an article about handshakes he's given and why they're increasing in regularity. And yeah, there was once an even stronger one, which I think is just him being a friendly lad. So, go on.
I was just about to say, well, what can we do? What can we do to trumpet? A big kiss from Prue as well.
I don't know. I'm trying to do something, the Hollywood handshake, the Leith, or like coming up with his lick, and that's not good. That's not going to happen.
No.
Answers on a postcard, listeners. What should Prue do to
the
show
Leith?
The Prue pat on the head? Well done. You did a very good bake. Anyway, sorry, we are bantering. The technical challenge this week was non-yeasted garlic naan. They had an hour to do it, and they had to make 8 with a lot of butter and garlic on top of it.
Garlic.
Yeah. So we knew this was coming. It was very clear what it was going to be from the clip they showed at the end of last week's episode. Not very successful, I think.
No, but I suspect that this is something you could get good at, but it needs a bit of practice, and you need the time and space to understand things like you have to get your baking tray piping hot before you put it under the grill.
Yeah.
And I suspect, maybe this is just because I'm just willing us to do well tomorrow, because I really want to be able to make these nicely.
Yeah.
But I suspect this is a recipe that's very simple when you've got experience of making it.
Yeah. Paul talked about wanting to catch them out and them using their baking knowledge. I don't think any of them necessarily had baking knowledge about the difference between yeast and baking powder and how you treat it and how you prove with bread. Again, because I'm not sure any of them are particularly bread bakers. Terry has said during the thing he likes bread, and bread is his thing, and he came first.
Terry also said, because I was trying to note down who said they'd made them before, and Terry also said he'd made naans with baking powder, so without yeast before.
Okay.
So it may be that actually that was a recipe that he has done before or
Right.
something very similar.
Yeah, because I saw John had made them before and he came second.
Yeah.
Also, Anthony made them before and he came eighth. So, but
He'd made them once before.
Yeah, true. And he's not from the region that...
No, rotis. Rotis are where it's at.
Rotis, darling. Yeah, I think we will return to discuss them, but I think there's not really much discussion on what the bakers did.
Nope.
Kim Joy brushed hers first and came last.
Because she had a cold tray.
Because she had a cold tray, and I think brushing them first also kept them wet. I think you cooked them dry as well. There's some interesting stuff about them adding the coriander. Who added the coriander when? Bryony had clearly added it when making the dough.
Yeah.
Some of them had added it when then cutting it, and some of them put it on top at the end.
But they didn't mention that in the judging at all.
No one mentioned it, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether it makes a difference. Interesting. Right, our final one. A tiered korovai that they had 5 hours to do. I mean, I spent a long time making la gâteau vert, but I was done by the time I'd done that. 5 hours on
5
bread.
hours is long.
Worth. A huge mix here. A huge mix in the way they approached it, in the structures that they did, what they put into their breads. I found it really interesting to see that range of difference.
Yes. And also it was very interesting to me the ones that didn't put fruit into their bread, because that seemed to be a non-strongly flavoured bread seemed to be a significant negative in the judging.
Yeah.
Everyone who hadn't got flavour, some fruit or something like that in their bread, got a bit of a
Yeah, completely agree. It was such a... The people who put it in, although it got commented on whether it didn't have enough and the moisture in the bacon and so on, theirs were the ones that had the flavour.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Ruby's in particular,
yes.
she probably had the best and the most flavoured stuff inside her bread. And she, I think, was it perfection,
Yeah,
Paul
she'd
said.
done the big twist with lots and lots of fruit inside it that she had to work on the plat, and it came up very well for her.
Yeah, I would have eaten that.
And again, 3
Very
weeks in a row, she has saved herself on that final round. So,
Yeah.
Like I said about Bryony last week, the people who do struggle initially might well learn something that stands them in good stead later. Ruby could actually be a contender for that, but she's not learned it yet, I think.
No, I mean, I'm trying to think, because, her, I don't think she's going to be a star in the technical challenges.
Okay.
I think she's going to be like something that she herself has thought through and planned, and has planned the flavours and has had a chance to practice, like today. Perfect. I think she misthought, but she had also thought through her Chelsea buns. I think the problem was she'd thought, all the filling's so sweet, I don't need to put the sugar in the dough.
Yes.
And therefore actually ended up with an incorrect dough.
Yeah.
Forgetting the sort of how the sugar contributes to the structure of the dough rather than just the sweetness of the dough.
Yeah, and that almost feels like she hadn't practiced it and gone, oh, it bakes differently. Let's buy a Chelsea bun from a shop or a bakery and compare it to mine and go, okay, how do they come out?
Yeah. Dunno.
Misjudged.
Dunno.
Who
Yeah.
knows? Lots of good designs.
Yes.
I think was the thing. People have done some very interesting things on it. Manon, I've got good design. Ruby's stunning. Bryony's underproved, not baked properly, wonky, but including the design inside it. The turret's actually inside the thing. Really nice approach. And again, if it had come off, that would be worthy, because you'd say, oh, you've actually done something to elevate this and to do something really nice. Anthony's underproved and yet overbaked.
Yeah,
So,
it just looked bad. But I mean, what they didn't say, which they have often said in the past of like chocolate flavoured bread and stuff, what they normally say is, oh, it's very hard to tell whether it's baked or not. And I think it must have been very hard to tell whether it was baked or not.
Yeah.
It looked incredibly overbaked.
Yeah.
Don't know if it was or not, but...
Yeah. They all looked very dark. I think I said during the watch of it, I feel like it is a feature of the korovai that the bread itself is quite dark, because it's such a big loaf as well.
Yeah.
You have to cook it a long time to get the inside cooked. But it also helps the colours on the decoration stand out.
Yeah.
Which I quite like. I think that's quite a nice approach. Makes me wonder, though, why Karen's ended up so dark on her decorations. I didn't like it
Dunno.
muted.
It's all right, but it was a good opportunity to do something. Wow, and it's not like she's a lady that shies away from colour.
Absolutely.
Maybe her colour was supposed to come from marzipan, and she was having to having to pull something out of the bag.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Rahul's that effect
Yes.
that you're just talking about. I think that came off best with Rahul, who actually used the contrast so nicely.
Yeah, because he kept his bread just a very, very light colour. Yeah, really good.
He is going to need to get a bit of self-confidence soon. It's if he comes in next week and he's like, "Oh, it's awful, I'm rubbish," I'm actually going to start to be irritated.
Yeah.
Because you can't be Star Baker 2 weeks in a row and then come in the next week and be like, "Oh, I can't do anything."
Yeah. I would like someone to say to him, you need to start believing in yourself, because actually that sort of shtick only goes so far, and at some point you're just asking for the compliments now, rather than... It was cute the first week or two. Now he's clearly very good at what he does. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like when I was teaching and like the really, really swotty, brainy girls would come in a complete nervous breakdown at the end, towards the exam. And it's like, no, you do need to now just take a big, deep breath.
Yep.
And recognise that you've been getting over 80% in all of your mock exams.
Yeah. So, and I hope he does. I hope he starts believing in himself. The worry is, generally, people who get lots of Star Bakers do not win.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, you're right. I don't know that is necessarily a cause and effect or just a coincidence, or is it to do with overconfidence? I don't think he's ever going to suffer from overconfidence, but underconfidence could mean that he's not got the, it means that he breaks under the stress towards the end.
Yeah, and does it mean he is currently performing at his peak?
Possibly.
And he doesn't necessarily have anywhere to go, so he might not have that ability to learn new tricks or bring in extra interesting things because he's always performed so well.
Yeah. It does make me wonder how planned they are for all of the weeks before they go into the show. Because I refuse to believe that they're just coming up with these things and then practicing them in the 1 week before the competition. They must have a bit of advance warning.
They definitely know which week is going to be which, because they've talked in the past about, when I saw Bread Week, I was most worried about it. Yes, they definitely know which week is which, but I don't know when they learn what the challenge is. I would imagine it's probably at least a couple of weeks so they can start doing that thinking.
Because when you think of how complex some of those designs were, that will have taken quite a bit of planning and researching what a Korovai is and think, I think there's a lot of planning work that must have gone into that.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of them were exquisite.
Yeah.
Manon's Fabergé egg was a very interesting idea. I think she and John both tried for something which would work if this was a tiered cake.
Yes.
If you could make a sponge and decorate it, they would have worked really well. But with bread, it wasn't the right thing.
I agree. Like, the judges seemed to be really quite enamoured with her design. I thought it looked a bit clunky.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
compared to some of the delicacy of everyone else's. Delicacy, delicateness.
Delicacy.
Delicatessen.
Delicious.
Nice.
I liked her flowers.
Yes. Yeah, she'd done a very nice design on them.
But overall, it was, as you say, it was less delicate than some of the others.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not really got many notes about Manon this week. For our listeners at home, this is the first week using our new grid. I have done us a grid of each of the bakers and each of the challenges that we can make notes on. I don't have much for Manon. I think my main thing that I noticed about her this week is she lives with someone who looks like her.
Yeah.
And I know they were making the joke about dresses like her. But yeah, I'm not sure I would have picked her out in a lineup.
Yeah, as much as she was like, yes, the French, we make the best bread. I don't think this was a good week for Manon because all my notes are overbaked, the flavour's too strong, happy design, bread, sad face.
I think she was very much in the middle this week.
Yeah.
So fine. Is there anyone else we want to comment on these? Yeah, John's very heavy, not a good flavour. But maybe he needs to learn to rein it in a little.
Yeah.
And Bryony's very much is her decoration again.
Yeah, I'm fearful for Bryony. I really like her, but she had a lot of promise in the first week.
Mm-hmm. And she seemed a nice person.
And she seemed a nice person. But like last week and this week, she's definitely been only just off the bottom.
Yes. And Kim Joy did cats again.
Meow.
So we had a couple of moments. We had Karen making her Bakewell flavours and him saying, don't do Bakewell again. And she bit back at him on it, which has been a thing of the older bakers in the tent. They do bite back at him. There's always a bit of... And she said, oh, it's supposed to be a signature thing I do quite often. It's like, yeah, but you're clearly only showing one skill doing that thing. He didn't say, cats again, don't do decorated cats again, because we know you can clearly do that.
Maybe the marzipan and the almond flavour is such an integral part of the bake that seems more repetitive to them than the sort of the small additional element of having decorated cats.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I don't think the marzipan worked out for her very well the last time she tried it. I mean, it seemed to do all right for her this week, but when it was like that big slab of marzipan on top of her tray bake...
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't fab.
No.
But yeah, I think, all in all, a decent attempt. I don't think Bread Week is ever going to be the best week.
No. It's hard for anyone to have... the sort of meltdowns or huge collapsing problems that we've seen. We had Terry with his oven, but that was clearly he hadn't done the preparatory work well enough.
Yeah.
I
wonder if there were new cloche thingies, cloche
yeah.
things, or maybe he baking
cloches.
cloches, or maybe he normally puts oil in them or something. It seems
not
weird.
Enough, so it didn't bake on the outside well enough.
Yeah. Odd.
But. So, Bake Week's done. Should we talk technicals?
The lovely green cake.
Yeah, so last week's technical was La Cateau Vert, which Mandy looked at and said, it's got pistachios in it. Nope. And you looked at and went, that's going to take a very long time.
Yes, and we were going away for the weekend.
And we did not have time to repetitively do that. So, it ended up me.
Yay!
I made a very green cake.
So Matthew, tell me, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about Le Gâteau Vert? As in, is it a number 10 cake of my dreams? I enjoyed making it. I would make it every week if I could. Or 1, spinach? No. So
I would put this probably a 3,
right?
Maybe a 2. This was not a fun bake. I don't feel like I learned anything that makes me sound incredibly pompous. It's not that I didn't learn anything from it, but there's nothing that I'm taking away that I'm thinking, oh, yes, that's a thing I'm pleased to have done or I'm pleased to have tried. I'm not totally convinced on the flavour of it. And there's a reason we have food colouring now and we don't use spinach. Frankly, you called this last week as one of the questions is that why the spinach? And yes, it's absolutely true. The recipe called for 300 grams of spinach to be wilted and then pureed and then strained through muslin. Spinach comes in 260 gram bags. So there's no way I'm buying 2 blooming bags of spinach just to top up that 40 grams. So I was already starting with less spinach than expected. But it said it should have made 160 to 170 millilitres of
spinach water.
So I ended up with about 150 mil. So I thought, actually, I'm not far out. I started off with something almost 20% less than it should have started, 15% less. But I've ended up with about 8% less water. So that I felt worked out okay. But then you have to keep some of the water back for doing the icing, the frosting, and put the rest into la crème beurre. What was it? Crème au beurre.
Crème au beurre.
Crème au beurre. I put the 100 ml in the crème au beurre. I put the rest of it in the frosting, and the frosting was only just green. like a very, very pale mint green. So I threw it, and in fact, it did not have enough water in there. What I should have done is not started off with so much icing sugar, but fine. So I threw in a load of green food colouring.
And it looked good.
And it did.
Well,
It came
it
out
looked
very
green.
Yeah. But that is absolutely the point. The spinach did not add any flavour to it.
No.
So the spinach is basically irrelevant. I think it's for adding a bit of green colour to the creme au beurre.
It was green food colouring from the times before we had green food colouring.
Yeah, exactly. So
entirely, an entertaining thing to watch people do on TV, but not something anyone ever really needs to do in their own kitchen.
Yeah.
So what bit? So there were different elements to it, weren't there? There was the sponge, there was the crème au beurre, there was the fondant. Which element did you find the hardest?
All of the. So the sponge is a Genoese sponge. So you make it with egg whites, and you mix up the egg whites as you would with a meringue, but because there's no sugar in there, you then fold in all your other ingredients, and that's what's given its rise. It doesn't really rise too much after that anyway. I don't think I necessarily mixed it as much. I felt I didn't quite get the rise I wanted from it. The marzipan layer was incredibly tough to roll out. And I think that might have been our processor didn't quite get the pistachio ground as much as I would have possibly liked it. But eventually I got it down.
Yeah.
Fine. And actually, putting the marzipan on was surprisingly easy.
Okay.
In the end. Rolling it out and then putting it over, I went, oh, this now has a nice dome cake shape. That was
nice.
Okay. The crème au beurre, the syrup. So you melt sugar into the spinach water, and then you boil the spinach water for a very long time, apparently until it goes clear. No, it never went clear. It went clear with the sugar because the sugar dissolved, but it never went clear. So I just made it for ages, and then you pour it into two egg yolks, and then you mix them, and then you mix in the paste that you've made with the rest of the pistachio and butter and other bits. And you basically make nutty buttercream.
It was delicious.
It was. Yeah, why? I think it made it smoother than if it had just been butter and pistachio and icing sugar.
Okay.
But again, it just felt excessive for what I was doing. I felt we have a more modern, better way of tackling that one.
Fair enough.
So it ended up, every stage of it was just, okay, I need to check how this works, and I need to check what I'm doing, and I need to look into it. And then I've done something that I think I could have done with equivalent modern tools, easier and quicker and better.
I'm just wondering, icing sugar. Icing sugar seems a fairly processed thing. Yeah. Do you think they had icing sugar in the days of Monet?
I'm not sure. And that's why I think it was probably a syrup. I completely get that. Because I don't know where necessarily you would have milled the sugar quite that level to get the icing sugar.
Yeah.
I think maybe you would have, but you wouldn't then have used it willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Because it would have been quite a bitch thing, I think.
But I'm just thinking I can see it being a more easily accessible ingredient of the times to get some sugar which you could melt down. I mean, I don't think sugar is probably that accessible anyway, but some sugar that you could then melt down to do the crème au beurre. Whereas if you could get icing sugar at all, I imagine it wouldn't have been that accessible.
Yeah. And if you had it, you were probably putting it in the fondant. Because the fondant was icing sugar and spinach water.
Yeah, so we did use icing sugar.
So, who knows?
Who knows?
So in the end, it was okay, but a very frustrating bake that seemed to take a very long time. And again, just felt like it used everything. Yeah. There was so much washing up to do, just all the way through it, because I was trying to clear space and keep things going. And you're rolling something out and then putting it to the side so you can get something else ready. And you've got cakes waiting, you've got cakes being sliced open. And then... So there were lots of surfaces needed for it. And then you were supposed to have kept some pistachios back for putting on around the outside. And it already had half a kilo of pistachios in it. This was a very pistachio-heavy cake.
Yeah, no wonder Mad didn't want to bake it if she didn't like pistachios.
Can you talk to me about the flavour of it? Because by that point, I was past caring.
I think overall,
Without being nice, knowing how stressed I was.
Yeah, you were so stressed. I think overall it is a very sweet cake. And this is nothing to do with your baking of the cake.
Sweet.
It is a very sweet cake. And therefore, I think for me, a little went a long way because it's so sweet. I mean, fondant icing is not my not my bag anyway. I loved the creme au beurre. Mm-hmm. I loved it when we were putting it on the leftover bits of marzipan. That I would happily eat any day. Pistachio marzipan with pistachio creme au beurre on it. Perfect. I didn't love the sponge. I think the sponge was a bit of nothing. Yeah. If you know what I mean. Yeah. And it was just like, I felt that a bit more cake with a bit less sweetness to it might have balanced out the intense sweetness of the rest of the ingredients. Yeah. But I don't think it would have been my sort of cake, even if it had been made by someone who had made it 100 times before and was making it 100% spot on. Okay. So I think you did a good job.
Okay, thank you.
I just...
Going past it being your sort of cake, can you talk to the flavour of the cake at all? Because I like you, I tasted it and went, okay, it's very sweet. And there's some pistachios in here. Is there anything more to it? I tasted all the parts as we went, and
I think the more to it. I mean, there's a nice there's quiche in the creme au beurre, But I think that little bit of booziness elevates the flavour of the cake. I think without that, the strength of the quiche in the creme au beurre, it would just have been sweet.
Yeah.
I unfortunately, Monet, I'm not going to be asking for a green spinach cake for my birthday every year. Chocolate and cherries.
What do we say it was going to be? The chocolate, cherry, chocolate?
Yes, that's going to be my birthday cake.
Okay, so I've done that. I think, like I say, the wagon wheels, I was pleased to have done some jam and some mallow, and I could see myself using some of those concepts again. Not to make wagon wheels again, frankly. But I could definitely see myself using them in other things. This, not going to use spinach for colouring.
Nope.
Not going to do creme au beurre. I'd do a Genoese sponge, but I've done Genoese sponges. Like I said, I've done them for Swiss rolls and Yule logs and all that kind of thing. So I was quite pleased with the fondant icing actually going on in the end. Because I thought it was going to be too... I wasn't quite sure I got the consistency right. I thought it was going to be a little bit too thin. Then I put it on. I thought it was too thick. Then I got my pound knife and started spreading it, and it was great. I was really pleased. Except for the point where, when I then slid it off the cake cooling tray that it was dripping through, and then tried to slide it onto the
cake board.
Cake board, thank you, Lord. Onto the cake board. Again, I was running out of surfaces, so I pushed the egg box that was out. But the egg box caught on something, and the other side of the egg box started coming towards me and pushed the green food colouring jar into the side of my cake. So it had this dent on the side of the icing at that point.
I think by that point you were just over it.
I think I was absolutely over it. I almost left the jar of icing sugar in the side of the cake, frankly, of food colouring.
Well done, honey.
We got it done.
You took one for the team.
Absolutely. It was... you do these things... and you may or may not learn something.
Yes.
And I didn't. This week, we're going to be doing garlic naan.
Bring it on.
I thought this was a really good challenge, actually. I was. The challenges all were quite good this week. The idea of keeping the Chelsea buns attached, the non-yeast naan, and then the korovai. I think they were all actually very good challenges to test them out.
Yeah.
I think the naan is going to be very interesting because... it's 250 grams of butter to be brushed on them. Like, that's to be brushed on 8 naan.
I refuse to believe that we're going to use anywhere near that much butter.
Yeah, I think we make it between ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or else we're going to be throwing away 400 grams of butter.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels an absolute excess. But I like the idea that this is potentially an hour, but you just do each step, bang, 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 and then you've got them, and then you just have to see how they come out.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
so
it should be good.
And maybe as we start baking or as we start proving, we order the curry. So it comes when they're ready, and we try and bake both of ours together.
Yeah. We'll give it a go.
Yeah.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting challenge to try, I think. like I say, it was interesting to watch some of them to see about the rolling out, when you add the coriander, how you treat the dough. It was really interesting, actually, because we got a shot of the instructions they get and just how different they are from the instructions that we have, because we have a lot more about how to make it and the timing it gets. But particularly things like you roll it out on an oiled surface so it comes off easily, and just seeing them dealing with that sticky dough, I'm very glad I know that beforehand.
Yeah. More on that next time.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week's show is desserts. Looks like quite a good range of desserts. It's not just spongy type things or cream type things. Look like probably a trifle as next week's technical.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be, which could be
Something
interesting.
like that.
I'm not sure we have a mold. Well, we have a couple of molds. Not really a traditional trifle mold, but perhaps we could try making a Batman cake and a dragon cake. A Batman trifle and a dragon trifle, because those are the molds we have.
That could work.
Dragon trifle next week.
Dragon trifle.
Good.
Bagsy not washing all the bits of trifle out
bits,
of the
yeah.
dragon.
The amount of cakes that have not come out of that tin very well, yeah. And it looks like there's also a signature that is puddings inside other things. I like that idea. That could be quite good fun to watch and see what they come up with, because, cats inside things. Catherine, one more question for you. Why did the baker make extra buns?
Oh, I don't know. Why did the baker make extra buns?
Because he needed the dough.
Nice.
Join us next week on Worth the Calories.
Yay, more baking jokes.